I really like the car, and it's very different than any supercar that I've ever had in its approachability, usability, reliability, practicality, but who wants any of that stuff? There's nothing that I enjoy more than a long road trip in a really cool car, and so I love exotic car rallies. And for the last 3 years, I've had the distinct privilege of doing the Goldrush rally and representing Team Modfind. Modfind is one of our long-term sponsors here on VINwiki, and it's an awesome marketplace for automotive enthusiasts to buy or sell new, used, OEM aftermarket, any parts, accessories, or items related to the automotive hobby. So please check out Modfind at the link in the description below to buy or sell the next part for your project. You can even offer a kickback to incentivize your followers to share your listings and bring you buyers to sell your stuff as quickly as possible. We love their new app. They just redesigned it. You can go on there right now and find a few sets of wheels and things like that I'd like to get out of the garage. But thank you all so much for supporting Modfind so they can continue to support us on these amazing adventures. But this year's Gold Rush route was really, really cool. They were going all the way from Las Vegas to Miami. And when I heard about that route and the fact they were actually going to break it up with between Denver and Nashville, they were going to actually ship all the cars and then we would all fly. And so the idea was to have a little bit more downtime, a little bit more of a social environment. And honestly, that's one of the best things about the whole thing. I love the driving, but getting to meet so many amazing people is always a ton of fun. So again, I was going to be going with Arnie Toman to represent Team Modfind. He was going to do the first half, and my wife was actually going to join me for the second half, at least from Atlanta to Miami. So we'd been talking a bit about which car to take, and I'd had a similar discussion going with Trevin from Sway, because always when you do these events, the question is, what is the ultimate car? Who is doing it best amongst a field, in this case, of about 90 cars? Which car is the perfect one for the trip? Because last year when we took the Paris Hilton SLR, it being a great Grand Touring supercar or hypercar, I have to concede that it being the oldest car in the field was a bit of a disadvantage. And I was planning to take my red Mercy SV. I love that car. It certainly would have been the coolest one of the field, and I don't mind driving them a long way. Now that being said, it is still a 10-plus-year-old supercar, and the air conditioning doesn't work all that well, and we were going to be in the desert and going down to South Florida. It was going to be very, very hot, and in fact, there's an external temperature sensor that I've been waiting on for a few weeks, and it's not here yet. And so there was no way to know that throughout the whole trip I would have air conditioning, and for this, that seemed necessary. In the video that I made last year, I said that a Ferrari FF or a GT4 Lusso on paper is probably the best option. And so Trevin had actually bought a really nice extended warranty Ferrari FF, and all of his team from Sway had been going to work making it look as cool as possible with brush guards and rock sliders and roof racks and everything else. And they were going to be bringing the robot dog from Boston Dynamics that Sway's been doing a lot of projects with. And so I always love hearing what they're up to. We've got a lot of ongoing projects with Sway that I'm excited to eventually be able to tell you all about. But I still wasn't sure if the SV was the right answer. And as we started talking through some future car trek concepts, I was going to need to buy another supercar. And I'd always been curious about an R8. Last year, I think 4 people had their cars break down during the rally, and they all ended up buying, during the event, a 2017 or 2018 R8 V10. Now, in that second generation of the R8, they just do the V10 or the V10 Plus. And the Plus is really cool because it is essentially a Huracan with more room inside. And so I thought that particularly for this next car trek premise, if I could find one with the right story, that would be a great fit. And as I really thought about driving without air conditioning in the Mercy SV, I thought, you know what? This would be a great Gold Rush car too. And so I found a 60,000 mile Audi R8 V10 Plus. And I'll tell you more about its past when we do a car trek series on it later in the year, but it was actually a pretty decent car. Obviously it came with the ceramic brakes, the double clutch transmission, everything that was standard on the V10 Plus, the cool carbon wing, and it was black. So I ended up having to wrap it. I was gonna do that anyway, but I turned it orange, my favorite color, and I loved the way the car turned out. So when I got the car back home, I only had about 10 days to get the car ready to ship to Vegas so I could fly there and meet it for the start. And I needed to do a few things to prepare it for the ultimate road trip. And so that included countermeasures, obviously. So we needed mounts for the phones and things like that, because during Gold Rush, you usually run Waze and you run an app called Joiner to be able to track where everybody's at during the event, see where they're at along the way. So I also needed radar and laser protection, and Redenzo makes the best kit for that right now. So we called them, got their ultimate system, and I had my friends at Cartoons install that. I also had Arnie pre-program a Bearcat Uniden police scanner that we could just put in the glove box, turn it on, and hear cops. We were also able, for the first time in one of these cars, to use the auxiliary input that the 2017 R8 still has, even though it has Bluetooth audio and all these features that I've never ever had in a car before. We were able to run the audio out of the scanner and into the Bang & Olufsen speakers. So I finally found a use for a radio in an exotic car. So that was amazing. We heard crystal clear, even through the static, a lot of police talking about us. So we had the Redenzo set up, we were protected from laser, had the best radar detection available, we had the police scanner in, everything mounted, power cords for everything, and we were ready to go. The guys at Wrap Pros locally turned it orange. My guys at AP3 Paint Protection clear broad the car. We took it out there and actually shipped it to gloss it. They ceramic coated the car when we got it there, and obviously it got stickered up for the event. So I was really excited for this comparison between the R8 and the FF, because obviously neither are the most visually stunning or super rare or interesting exotic cars, but they are very good and very reliable cars. Now, Trevin had also gotten through Butler Tire, one of our mutual friends, some amazing set of HRE wheels. He took some pictures of the car sliding through the desert. They wrapped it in their repeating snake pattern that they use for sway. The thing came out amazing. And they had a robot dog in there, so they were certainly making their presence known. Now, of course, when you put a lot of things that Ferrari didn't design on it, it doesn't go as fast without whistling like crazy. So between the roof rack and the rock sliders, he said anything over 120 miles an hour was pretty much deafening. Now, of course, my generally stock R8 would go all the way up to, it was supposed to go 203 miles an hour. We didn't get it that fast, but probably 170, 180, and it was sublime. It's very comfortable. The visibility is great. The room is okay. The front trunk is quite compromised just due to the all-wheel drive setup and the way they've got that all framed in. But Arnie and I were able to pack, for that part of the trip was 4 or 5 days, and my wife and I were able to do the same. And so overall, I have to say that it passes from a practicality test, because that is another thing about these rallies. Even though there's a luggage truck, you have to get up early to give them your luggage. You don't know when it's going to get there. It's awfully nice to be able to carry all of your stuff. Certainly, Trevin was able to do that in the FF, and I'll get him to come along at some point and talk more about that. But he had some issues, shall we say. Air conditioning and tire rubbing and packaging and things like that. So I believe that I had found the ultimate car. Now, I will say that the R8, with all of its technology and all of its automation and all of its electrification in terms of the way that the suspension works and the steering works and all the aids and all the, I have to say, it is a little bit sterile. I said the exact same thing in 2014 at Imola Racetrack when we were launching the Huracan. I said, that's a very boring but very beautiful car. I understand why you're doing it that way, but it's not what I want when I think about a Lamborghini. Now, when I think about an Audi, that is more acceptable, and that is the reason why I actually prefer the V10 Plus R8 to a similar spec Huracan, because the whole thing feels better when I think about it as an Audi. And as an Audi, it's a whole lot of fun. It's a very pretty Audi, it's a very fast Audi, but the way that you engage with the car, the way the whole UX works, it doesn't really beg you to drive it like a supercar. It begs you to drive it like an S5. It starts in ultra comfort mode, it shifts to 7th gear at 30 miles an hour, and it doesn't really beg you to use the paddles or put it into dynamic mode or make the exhaust louder, all the things that take buttons to do. I really like the car, and it's very different than any supercar that I've ever had in its approachability, usability, reliability, practicality, but who wants any of that stuff? I'm excited to continue the adventure with it. I've now put about 4,000 miles on the car, and it is doing perfectly. I'll go get it serviced and see if anything broke while we were there, but so far, no error lights, no issues. It's very unlike our normal rally experience. And so in the 3 years as Team Modfind, the first year we did a GT3 touring with Tom Park, as well as Arnie's fake police car, the fake Taurus, the Audi S6. And I also spent a lot of time that year in an SLR. The next year we had my SLR, which broke a lot. My Scud, which has always been the tried and true, always ready to go, does everything right rally car except be terribly comfortable. And this year we only needed one car, and so that was the R8. And so we're making progress, I think, and we're still representing Team Modfind. So thank you to everybody who watched our live stream from the start. I always try to do that, even though the signal is usually a little bit challenging with everybody using their phones in whatever spot that is. But it was another amazing event by the team from Goldrush, and as I said, a huge honor to represent Modfind. So please download Modfind at the link in the description below. Stay tuned for more adventures that we do, but whether you want to buy or sell the next part for your project, please do so at Modfind to thank them for supporting us. Have a great day.